She was just 14, full of dreams, innocence, and trust. She believed her school friends were like sisters, safe, loyal, kind. But what they did to her destroyed her life. They pushed her into something no child should ever face. And when it all fell apart, it was her mother who was left picking up the pieces, crying out for justice that never came. This isn't just a tragedy, it's a betrayal. By friends, by the system, by the world. Rabeeca Sedgwick was only 12 years old. She didn't get a second chance. But the people who pushed her to that edge, they did. Rabeeca Ann Sedgwick was born on October 19, 2000 in Sebring, Florida. But she grew up in Central Florida, living in Lakeland with her mother, Tricia Norman, her stepfather, John Norman, and her siblings. The family lived in a mobile home park in a quiet neighborhood not far from her school. Space inside the home was limited, and Rabeeca sometimes had to sleep on a recliner or the living room couch. Her mom worked different jobs, including as a medical assistant, while her stepdad fixed air conditioners and refrigerators. Rabeeca's biological father, Kim Sedgwick, was mostly absent from her life, and this sometimes made her feel sad and distant from him. Even with these challenges, Rabeeca was a cheerful and kind girl. She enjoyed school, got good grades, and was known for being friendly and full of energy. At her elementary school, she often made the honor roll and had lots of friends who loved being around her. In the fall of 2012, at just 11 years old, Rabeeca started 6th grade at Crystal Lake Middle School in Lakeland. Middle school was a new chapter for her, and at first it went well. She made new friends, including a girl named Caitlin Roman, a name that would later become important in her story. She also started spending time with Guadalupe Shaw, an older, more popular girl at the school. For a while, Rabeeca felt like she fit in. She joined in on mall trips, hung out with friends after school, and made new memories. By the end of 2012, things began to shift for Rabeeca at school. What started as a normal school year slowly turned into something much harder. In November, Rabeeca began coming home upset, not just once, but more and more often. She told her mom, Tricia, that some of her classmates weren't treating her kindly. Tricia immediately tried to help. She reached out to Crystal Lake Middle School again and again, sometimes by phone, sometimes in person, to ask for support. She contacted the school almost every day, trying to make someone understand what Rabeeca was going through. But despite all her efforts, it felt like nothing meaningful was ever done to truly help. At the center of all the tension was a falling out between friends, especially involving a boy named John Borgen, whom Rabeeca had a middle school crush on. Later, another girl named Guadalupe Shaw began dating him. Guadalupe, who was 14 at the time, didn't like that Rabeeca had once been close to him. That's when things began to get tense. Guadalupe and others started to distance themselves from Rabeeca, and the social pressure around her grew. Even Caitlin Roman, who had once been one of Rabeeca's closest friends, became distant. Over time, more students followed their lead. Rabeeca started feeling left out, like she didn't quite belong anymore. As 2012 turned into 2013, things at school became harder for Rabeeca. Some classmates continued to treat her differently. Whispers turned into mean comments. The smiles she used to see were replaced with cold stars or silence. A few students even started saying things that made Rabeeca feel small and unwanted. And the group that had once been her friends, they weren't standing by her anymore. Among the students involved was Guadalupe Shaw, who seemed especially harsh. She often made cruel remarks and made Rabeeca feel like she didn't belong. Even Caitlin, who used to be Rabeeca's best friend, began acting unkindly. At one point, there was even a physical confrontation between them at school. Rabeeca started coming home quieter than usual. Her mom noticed the change right away. The bright, playful girl she had raised seemed weighed down. Then, in December 2012, Tricia saw something that truly worried her. Rabeeca had some marks on her arms. Tricia immediately took her to the hospital, where Rabeeca stayed for a few days and received counseling. During those sessions, Rabeeca admitted that everything happening at school was overwhelming. The school responded by adjusting her schedule, hoping to create some distance from the students involved. But the tension didn't fully go away. Rabeeca still felt watched, pushed aside, and unwanted. Early in 2013, Rabeeca told her mom about more incidents at school. She felt nervous walking through the hallways and mentioned that some students were still bothering her. In February, There was another incident at school that made it clear things still hadn't improved. At home, Rabeeca was often quiet. She spent more time alone and seemed more emotional than usual. She also began sharing messages online that reflected how she felt. In one post, she wrote, "Dear school, I hate you." In another, she thanked the people who were ignoring her. These posts gave a glimpse into her sadness. After everything Rabeeca had been through, her mom knew something had to change. In early 2013, following a troubling incident at school, Trisha made a big decision. She pulled Rabeeca out of Crystal Lake Middle School. Her mom began homeschooling her. The hope was simple: to give Rabeeca a break from everything and help her start healing. At home, things slowly began to look up. Rabeeca continued meeting with a counselor and focused on feeling better. Her mom took extra steps too. She limited Rabeeca's access to social media and took away her phone for a while. These changes gave her space to breathe and recover without the pressure from the outside world. Without the daily stress of school, Rabeeca's spirit began to lift. She found joy in simple things again, like dancing to her favorite songs, using an Xbox Connect game as part of her PE at home. She smiled more, laughed more, and her family started seeing glimpses of the happy, bright girl they knew. Her counselor also noticed the difference. In their final session together, Rabeeca said she was doing better and showed signs of feeling more hopeful. In August 2013, at 12 years old, Rabeeca started 7th grade at Lowton Chills Middle Academy, a new school her mother hoped would give her a fresh start. The new school felt like a fresh page. Rabeeca made new friends, joined activities, and even talked about auditioning for the school chorus. Rabeeca seemed more excited, more confident, like she was finally moving past the pain. After seeing her daughter slowly improving, Trisha allowed Rabeeca to start using a cell phone again, with limits and supervision. At first it seemed okay, but soon Rabeeca opened accounts on apps that were popular with kids her age, like Kick Messenger, Ask FM, and Voxer. These platforms let users send messages and sometimes even do it anonymously. Not long after that, some of the girls from her old school found her online. They began sending messages that made Rabeeca feel excluded and targeted, just like before. Some of the posts made her feel left out or unwelcome. Rabeeca didn't tell her mom right away. Trisha was keeping an eye on the apps she knew about, but she didn't know Rabeeca had joined platforms like Ask FM. So some of the hurtful posts went unnoticed at first. As the new school year moved forward, Rabeeca's mood started to change again. She wasn't as cheerful as she had been just a few weeks earlier. Her friends and family noticed. She looked more quiet and distant. By September 2013, Rabeeca had been trying to move forward, but the emotional weight from everything she had experienced was still there. Even though she had changed schools and had a few better months, the messages from her past classmates continued online. Through anonymous apps, they found ways to contact her again, and it started to affect her deeply. At home, things weren't easy either. Her mother and stepfather had been having arguments, and Rabeeca often felt caught in the middle. She was also feeling hurt by a distant relationship with her biological father. Around the same time, she went through a breakup with a boy she cared about, which added to the sadness she had been carrying. In early September, Rabeeca began to show quiet signs that something wasn't right. She changed one of her online usernames to something more somber. She also looked up a few concerning things online and saved an image that seemed to reflect her feelings. These small signals showed just how overwhelmed she had become. On the night of Sunday, September 8, 2013, everything seemed calm. Rabeeca sat in the living room texting on her phone. Around 11:30 p.m., her mom reminded her to start getting ready for bed. Rabeeca smiled and replied gently, "Okay, I love you, Mom." It was the last thing she said to her. Later that night, Rabeeca sent a few quiet messages to friends who lived out of state. Before going to bed, she also deleted several photos and messages from her phone and left it on her bed. On Monday morning, September 9, 2013, Rabeeca quietly got up before anyone else in the house. It was a regular school day, but that morning she didn't follow her usual routine. She left the house and walked a short distance to a location in Lakeland. That morning, away from home, Rabeeca's journey came to a tragic end. She was just 1 month away from her 13th birthday. When she didn't return home from school, her mother became concerned. After calling the school, she learned Rabeeca hadn't arrived that day. The police were contacted and a search began. Next day, on September 10, 2013, authorities located Rabeeca near the abandoned cement plant. The PK County Sheriff's Office immediately launched a full investigation to understand what had happened in her final hours. Officers began looking through Rabeeca's phone, tablet, and online accounts. They also reviewed her handwritten diary and spoke with friends, classmates, and those who had been close to her. As the evidence came together, it was clear that Rabeeca had been deeply overwhelmed, not just at school, but online as well. Sheriff Grady Judd, who led the investigation, later shared that Rabeeca had been targeted across several social media platforms. What the team uncovered showed just how serious and constant the pressure had become, and that it hadn't gone away even after her environment changed. As the investigation moved forward, it became clear that some individuals had contributed to that pressure. What happened next would capture national attention. On October 15, 2013, about a month after Rabeeca's passing, two students who had previously attended Crystal Lake Middle School with her were taken into custody. Guadalee Shaw, age 14, and Caitlin Roman, age 12. They were referred to juvenile court in connection with repeated online and school-related mistreatment. One key moment in the case involved a post that appeared on Guadalee's Facebook account. The message raised concerns because of its timing and tone. Guadalupe and her parents said the account had been hacked and that she hadn't written the post. But law enforcement said they had not found evidence pointing to anyone else. Investigators had also gathered other digital messages and personal accounts from classmates. Based on this, they believe Guadalupe may have been more involved with Caitlin following along. Sheriff Judd said no additional students were expected to face charges. The case quickly made national headlines. Many people across the country shared their views, some believing the students involved needed to be held accountable, while others felt that, as minors, they deserved support and counseling over punishment. Both girls received legal representation. Caitlin's family hired a well-known attorney, while Guadalupe also had a legal team. After reviewing the available evidence, the state attorney's office announced on November 20, 2013, that it would not proceed with formal charges. Prosecutors explained that while the case was serious, the evidence wasn't strong enough to move forward in court. They also said the students had begun counseling and were no longer believed to be a risk to others. Sheriff Judd expressed support for the decision, stating that the key goals had been achieved, the behavior had stopped, and those involved had been directed toward getting help. He also said that the attention the case received helped spark important conversations in schools and communities nationwide. Though the legal case did not result in any formal convictions, both girls were placed in programs to support learning, reflection, and healthier behavior moving forward. But not everyone felt this was enough. Rabeeca's grandmother, Pat Jones, said she was deeply upset when the charges were dropped. Though the funeral happened shortly after Rabeeca's passing in September 2013. We wanted to save this moment for the end because it's not just how she was remembered, but how her community responded. On September 16, 2013, Rabeeca's family, friends, and neighbors gathered in Bartow, Florida to say goodbye. Many wore green, her favorite color, and shirts with messages of kindness and support. After that, the community came together. Vigils were held, ribbons tied on trees, and students from both of her schools took time to reflect. Rabeeca's story touched people far beyond Lakeland. In the weeks that followed, her mother Tricia launched an online campaign to raise awareness and promote compassion among young people. The goal was simple: to make sure what happened to Rabeeca never happens to another child. Fighting back tears at one awareness event, Tricia shared what so many grieving parents feel. "I wouldn't wish this on anybody. It's heartbreaking. It leaves an emptiness that's hard to describe." And in that way, Rabeeca's voice still echoes through every green ribbon, every shared story, and every promise to choose kindness. A 14-year-old girl gone too soon, and a mother still waiting, not for her daughter to return, but for justice that never came. Even today, her mother lights a candle, not in hope, but in memory, because justice never found its way